This is episode 5 of What's Been Better. This week, we're talking about the roles we play, how we show up, and the perspectives we have about our roles. This isn't just about our families and friends, because we play a role in every situation we are in. A heads up to the moms, mother in laws, and anybody else with sensitive ears. We cuss a little, so excuse me, baby. So, so you were asking me about how I feel and how I get to the point of becoming the villain, basically.
Yeah, it's as I'm becoming more clear about what you're saying. Sometimes we receive something, and so we're on the receiving end, and then at other times somebody else is on the receiving end. And so, like, if I said something cruel to someone, I might not remember it, but the receiver is always going to remember how they receive a thing because they are going to be the one to interpret it as quote unquote good or bad, right? And so if I stole something from someone years ago, they're going to remember it being taken from them because they've been violated. So the one who's been wounded is going to remember being wounded instead of the wounder, right? So when you like we are talking about ghosting and things like that, if somebody ghosted you or you feel violated, you feel left on red, people say you left me on red. The person who left that person on red, they're not going to remember that. They don't probably even care because they didn't receive the harm done to them, or they didn't receive the good feeling that they received. The other person who gave it, they might not remember it. So
Head hurts again because you having to process stuff in real time is a challenge sometimes, y'all. For anyone that hears this. Um yes. Yes. Yes again. And I say all these yeses because it's a thing I always used to say. It's like I would tell people, don't turn me into the thing that you don't want me to be because I will become it for you.
okay.
Intentionally or unintentionally. You don't want to be somebody else's villain.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be the good guy. You want to help. Well, okay. That is my intention. I can't speak for anybody else. That is my intention. I don't ever want to be somebody's villain. Do I become other people's villain? Probably. Have I? Yes. Have I set out to be that? Not at first. Not at first.
What happens?
Harm.
So then you become the receiver of the pain. And
Right.
then what do? You become the thing that you received?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think, yes, the origin story is that, like every Marvel comic, I got hurt at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I was minding my own business. I was doing whatever I was doing. I thought it was fine. Somebody came and nitpicked, flicked my ear, did whatever. And now I got to be the villain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it, but it happens.
Right. Okay. So is that what you want to continue, or like that has happened up until now and now you're someone different? Like, what are you saying?
I don't know. The jury's still out. I said I'm growing. I didn't say I've grown.
Oh, well, growing is great.
I
But
can't
what's the
say that I
difference?
won't be. The difference is I'm hyper aware now.
Okay.
So so last week when you said we were talking about the ghosting thing and I was like I'm not responding to these people's emails and text messages and you asked, but isn't that ghosting?
Mm-hmm.
It echoed in my head for days after you
Really?
said that.
Okay.
Yes. And when I started editing our episodes to be put out, I heard myself say in episode 1, I would never ghost someone. I would
Oh,
never do that to them.
okay.
And I was like, oh, I hear myself saying this, and here I am doing it.
Okay. And so what happened in that moment?
I pulled my phone out and I responded to the text message and I responded to that email.
Okay. And you did that because?
I did it because I didn't, well, number one, you always talk about things coming back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I already had it happen to me. I don't want to do it to them. And then it happened to me again
Mm-hmm.
because how many lessons does it take before you learn?
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a let me get this energy off of me. And it was also a let me close this door, this drawer, this window, this whatever this is. Let
Mm-hmm.
me close it finally for good.
Okay. And what was there when you did it?
A little bit of peace.
Nice.
A little bit of peace. It was peace and being able to say, okay, I see your apology.
Mm-hmm.
I literally said, I forgive you, but I
Mm-hmm.
no longer want to have contact with you.
So you actually said that.
Yes.
Okay. And you said it just like that?
I said, I think I said the words, I forgive you, because the
Okay.
person, you remember the text message was very long
Mhm.
and drawn out. And I said, I forgive you, but I no longer want to talk and I don't want to have any further contact. And the
Okay.
person said received. And I was like, cool. Now we're done.
And you said that too?
No, I said it. I said that part in my head.
Okay. And so when they said received,
That was it. I just closed my phone and I was done with it.
okay.
And
So
the
and
other
so
people,
yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. And the other people with the email, the ghosting 2 times, 3 times, however many times, because I feel
Mhm.
like it just happened forever. I I did not say you ghosted me, but I said your lack of communication
Mhm.
is what led me to make further decisions.
Mhm.
And I essentially was like, good luck in the future. But
Mhm.
I did not leave any space to let them think that like we'll be working together in the future. I didn't really want that to be a thought.
Mhm. Okay.
So
And what was there for you after you did that?
I guess a ending of like a end of a chapter for me.
Mhm.
If something happens again where like I have an opportunity or there's something else that comes up that I want to write about, maybe I'll think about contacting them.
Okay.
But a lot of it, yeah, it was just more peace, more feeling of like, all right, I'm doing the right thing for myself first.
Okay. Right.
So,
That's
yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And so it's interesting when you mentioned as soon as you thought, man, I ghosted somebody, it sounded like you were like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, I thought like here I am taking on the role as the villain now. Like
Mm-hmm.
I became the bad guy. I became the person who would do that to someone else. And I was like, I just said I would not be doing that to anyone
Right.
because I know how it feels.
Right. Right. So then it sounds like, and I'm learning too. So while I think we're all hopefully learning and desiring to be better, right? And so as I'm thinking about these authoritative figures, right? So anybody coming into our space is like speaking from their own place of authority. And so when they hit us with a thing, it's going to be up to us to decide if we will receive that thing, receive their authority, or allow our authority to still maintain its posture. So as soon as you got hit with this ghosting perspective, like they didn't respond to you, you made a decision. Either I'm receiving this as though what they're doing is okay and I can, boom, do it to them, or no, I don't receive that. Right. This is who I am. I'm someone who still responds in the face of them doing whatever they do.
Yeah.
So when you got hit back with that, it could be, I don't want to talk to you because I'm angry, but then you got to ask yourself, what am I angry about?
Exactly. Oh man. And okay, so I was thinking about that part too. It's like, why would I still be mad when I said I was done? You
Mm-hmm.
can't, I can't go in a circle and like go back to being mad. Like, no, 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 you already did that. I can't go back to being hurt because I've already healed. I can't go back to like any of it because number one, it's in the past, it's over with, it's done, whatever happens. Number two, I got to like drag up all the lessons. I have to come back to the four agreements of like, it can't be personal. It cannot be personal. And I have to be impeccable with my word. I said I would never do this to someone else. So, though it took me days and days to respond, I still was able to respond because
Mm-hmm.
my intention at the beginning was like, I'm never going to respond. I'm just going to put it away. I'm just going to act like it didn't happen. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's not it. That's no, no, no. That's not what we're doing. We're not doing that.
Right, right, right.
So, but I feel like this doesn't just happen in work. I feel like this happens with family as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to talk about like parents and children, but I also want to talk about like the reverse of this, like the child becoming the parent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what were you going to say when you were talking about like the role of parents and children and how, like, especially when you talk about the authoritative part,
Mm-hmm.
like, how does that work?
So when we were talking about this reversing of roles of such, I'm thinking about when parents they grow up, right? They like I'm a grown woman now. Well, I used to be 22. I used to be 15. I used to be 17, right? So and I experienced whatever I experienced and I was in that developmental space and life happened. And so now I have children. And so I know for me, there's a tendency within me to speak to my children as though they need to know what I know right now
Ooh, instead of
when
like
they don't.
learning it.
Right. And forgetting that I was once their age.
Hmm.
And so why are you doing this? And why and don't be doing that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
my parents didn't say that to me. you know, and
Okay.
it's interesting because especially my father, when I think about how we talked, he allowed me to be myself, my full self at that age, and he said you'll learn. I remember him saying that. So I think what happens in parent and child dynamics, sometimes the parent don't, they don't allow their children to experience what they experience. Now, yes, there need to be some boundaries. There need to be consequences to actions, but also let them experience the way they experience it. They might go through some of the same things, but they're going to experience it differently than we experienced
And
life.
I find that to be such a difficult thing for people to understand is like, yes, we both came to this conclusion. Yes, we both experienced whatever the thing is, but because I experienced it a little bit differently than you did, my version of it doesn't seem right to you.
Right.
Like I experienced that with my mom, and shout out to her. She's so funny. She knows that we're doing the show, and so I've been calling pretty much everybody that I've mentioned or am going to mention. So I was on the phone with her and my sister, and we were having like some of these same conversations. And my mom was talking about just, she spent so much time in our childhood at work, working multiple jobs and having to do so many things and never really being able to do the things that she wanted to do. And
Hmm.
now that she is retired and now that COVID has happened, she's watching like all the TV shows she missed while at work and wanting to like talk with us about them. And so are we. We're watching things that like we didn't get to watch because we were like in sports or also at work or doing all these things. And so those conversations have been interesting. But it was so funny for me to say, hey, I'm going to talk about all of us on the show And most people have been like, yeah, that's fine. No problem. My mom was like, leave me out of everything. And I was like, no, ma'am. No, no, no.
That
We're
is so
going to
funny.
mention you. We're going to have to talk about this because, and I bring her up because so much of where we have always butted heads is that, and my mom will tell you this, she will not let me lead.
Okay.
If it is something that I know, like I went to school for chemistry, I know this stuff. I'm like, Mom, those two chemicals do not go together. It is going to be very harmful. You're going to suffocate. Don't do this. Mom's like, I mean, if you just put a little, it should be fine, right? No, ma'am, it is not. But it's very difficult for her to let the roles reverse and me be the leader, me be the adult, me be the one that actually knows the thing and teach her the lesson or give her the information. She's getting better at it now because I know now to just yell out, let me lead. but but a lot of it, yeah, I see that whole struggle and like the parent thinks that they should just automatically know and the kid should just automatically know. But it doesn't necessarily work like that.
Exactly. Exactly. I think too, when we do that, the child doesn't grow up. Sometimes it can happen that they don't grow up. And so even though they are grown, like physically grown, and it looks like they should know this and they ought to do that, there is that second guessing, which goes back to what you said earlier about that inner talking to yourself. And that's where that self-limiting, doubting kind of way shows up, because that parent, instead of allowing at least collaboration, I mean, if
Mm.
nothing else, you got a full ass grown person standing beside you telling you something that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't go to school for that. They did. Allow
Mm-hmm.
them to teach you something. And in that way, we allow the child to then become the parent,
Yeah.
because that's how life is. It is a cycle. And so, and ultimately, if we take some of these titles off, we'll find that we're all brothers and sisters in this thing. Your mom is just an older version of you, in a sense. She just came before you did.
Okay.
And if we get out of ourselves, we could really, really learn something.
I feel like that. And I feel like what you just said about like you don't necessarily grow up. So much of why I feel like I struggle is because I don't have the emotional maturity that some of my peers have because
Mm-hmm.
they learned so many of these lessons when they were younger. They
Right.
were already put in these roles. They were already taught these things. They were already um these situations already happened or somebody posed maybe the same situation, they were able to explain it to them or say something to them that actually made sense to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My husband and I compare about these things all the
Right.
time. The life lessons that he had at like 6, 7, 8 years old that I didn't get till 36, 37, 38.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had that same struggle of, and I have to tell him constantly, people don't know what you know.
Right. Right.
You assume it, but they have no idea. Because he would look at me and be like, you don't know this? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. No one told me this.
Right, right. I have that same experience with my fiance, because he comes from the position that people ought to know.
Mm.
And it's only because of my training, because I would be right there where he is too. But as I'm constantly learning, I realize that everybody has their own story. Everybody lives in their own movie. And that's why I say they're in their own movie from the time they're born. Life hits them in different ways. And depending on how they were raised, something they'll know and some things they won't know. And so when we anticipate that somebody should know something first, there are no shoulds in this world. Either it is or it's not, right?
I'm on
So
adverse words.
right, right. So we don't know if they experience this or not. I think it might be best to ask, what's your experience? Even with our children, because my oldest daughter, she went to school, man, she been to more countries than I have.
Mm-hmm.
And she's 20, about to be 28. I'm about to be 51, right? So it would be great for me to ask her what has her experience been instead of me telling her about her experience.
I okay, if we go down the travel road, we my husband and I have definitely experienced that. I mean, we lived out of the country for years
Right.
and still have people tell us what they believe our experience is or was
How
in
does how
in
does that
those
show up?
countries. A lot of, well, you know how it is over there. No, you tell me, because I could have swore that you've never been there because you don't even have a passport.
Right. Isn't that
It shows
interesting?
up like that, of like a
Right.
lot of assumptions,
Right. Right.
and none of them, I won't say none of them, but majority of them never really ring true, because if you've only been inside your bubble, you have no idea what the wide world is. You have no idea what's happening. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, even all the focus that is going on with between Russia and Ukraine right now, I see a lot of people like running to pay attention to that, and they've forgotten how the Haitians were treated when they were brought here. They've forgotten or did not see the bombings in Somalia. They're not watching all these other things. They're just watching like their local news. They're not turning on world news.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking at the bigger picture and seeing all the other things that are happening. They're just assuming like these things right here in front of me, or what's being like fed to me through this filter. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the same mindset to me. That's always a struggle to talk to people, especially like right as we were coming back to the country
Mm-hmm.
and like moving back to America. It was a lot of like, well, it was probably like this and this. And it's like, no, no. Or other places that we went on vacation. Well, don't they eat whatever? No, they had Burger King. It's just, it was a lot of that, of like, you have all these pre
Mm-hmm.
all these thoughts of like, it must be like this because that one time I saw it on this one show, this one movie, that one horror story that I heard. And it's like, no, it's not.
Right. Right. And if we ask, hey, I saw this. Is it like that? What
Mm-hmm.
was it like? Because open-ended questions are really good too. What, when, where, how? That would be the thing, right? To say that and ask instead of making this assumption, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you
Right.
definitely hadn't been there, you can't even speak from that place.
Right.
So,
And I don't do enough of that when it comes to my mom. Like, especially now that I am on that end of like, I have an aging parent and wanting to, well, feeling like I should step into this role of like caretaker now, but her still wanting her independence and her rightfully still having her independence,
mm-hmm.
but still being like, Mom, don't harm yourself. Mom, don't do
Right.
anything crazy. Mom, pay attention. Those kinds of things. It's hard because I'm just kind of assuming the worst all the time. I'm not asking as many open-ended questions that I should, of
Mm-hmm.
like, how's she feeling, how's she doing, what does she want to do.
Mm-hmm.
um it's I even like with travel, she has a passport. I want her to have all these stamps in her passport. And I know COVID and COVID and COVID and COVID, but it's like I want to do all these things, and she doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
She just wants to like chill and like be on the couch
Okay.
and watch TV. And I'm like, no, we should go,
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Right.
just allowing her to have that.
Right. And so how can you do it? How can you do that? What would will be one thing? Because I think it starts there, as I guess first acknowledging what that would do for you if she did do those things that you wanted, like go out of the country with you, or go travel with you instead of being in the house.
See, to me, it's selfish to want all these things. It's selfish of me to want the memories of those things,
How?
even if they're not enjoyable for her, because she's not like, it's not. it's another feeling of like I'm not reading the room in
Mm-hmm.
assuming that she would want to go to these places
Mm-hmm.
just because I think they're nice and I think that she would like them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. I haven't asked her if she would like them. Or when I have asked her
Okay.
before,
Mm-hmm.
she's just like automatically shuts it down of like, no, I'm not doing that. And I'm
Okay.
like,
Did you?
oh, I want you to try.
Okay. And so when she said, I'm not doing this, right? Emphatically, I'm not doing this. What's there for you? Like, is there a question to say, well, what would you like to do instead? Or how is it that you don't want to do these things?
Not in such a nice way. It's more out of a frustrated sense of like, oh man, I just want you to want what I want.
I
And
see.
you and instead of knowing that like no one has to want what you want. I don't I was not thinking in that mindset at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking we have to get out of this country for at least 5 minutes. We need a break. That's what
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay. Okay. And see, and I'm in my mind right now about to go into therapy mode because I'm like, okay, well, when were there times when you had a good time with your mom, right?
Here we go. Here we go.
And then I'm thinking about maybe the young mom, the like the young version of your mother speaking out. And I don't want to do this because I'm wondering from her childhood, what was that like? Did she get a chance to go even to another state, or did she travel with her parents?
She was a goer. She was
Okay.
a serious goer before. Military family, married military also. So always a goer. So
Okay, so
I'm
she's been
wondering,
places.
yeah. And so I'm wondering also, is this a reverse of that because you just want to rest, because you spent so much time on the go, on the go, on the go, and
Mm-hmm.
having to work and having to do, and like I said, missing out on just something as simple as like 90s television.
Exactly. Where has she been?
Multiple
Okay.
states, and
Okay.
then cruises, to other
Okay.
places, stuff like that. Um,
Well,
Never came to visit us in the Middle East, even though I
okay.
just like really wanted her to.
Okay.
But that was a very long flight. I mean,
Okay.
extremely long flight. So I think, she was still working at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would have been a lot to take off, a lot to do such a long flight. It was not cheap, those things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have like my husband's mom on the flip side who is like, where are y'all going to be? Okay, I'll be there in like 6 weeks. She's just one of those people that's like, pick up and go.
And so she met y'all out there.
Oh yeah. And
Okay.
then went on vacation with us while we had spring break also. So like not only had a trip to see us, but also had like an extended trip as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Oh, that's
Now,
beautiful.
of course, she's much younger than my mom. So there's like that difference. But both of them, there's just such a difference in the relationships each of them have with their children.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because, yeah, that difference in age, the difference in situation, but I mean, they both have done an amazing job at everything that they have done.
Oh, absolutely. And so we don't ever take that away. We
No,
just we look at how we can be better in our assumption of our parents or how we perceive them or how we experience them. You mentioned that she was married to your well, she was married to your father, but um she he was in the service, right?
yes.
Yeah. So did she go out of the country with him, or that was they were stateside?
Oh, that was a long story. No. So he would go and we would stay. So we
Okay.
never got to go. And
Okay.
I always get mad with my siblings because it was more my siblings' decision than it was like my parents' decision. My siblings were in high school and they wanted to
Okay.
like finish high school in America and stuff like that. And I was like, y'all,
I see.
we could have finished high school, wherever. And I could have finished elementary school wherever because there's a huge gap between
Hmm.
us.
Oh, I
So,
see. I
yeah.
see. That makes a lot of sense then too. And also, have you ever had a conversation with your mom about her feelings about going out of the country with him? when she could have had an opportunity to go, because once she makes the decision, children are gonna go with her. I mean, I can't imagine she would leave them.
I think we have had conversations in passing, especially like amongst the three of us, like three kids and her. Um, my father has been gone for now 22 years. So never really had that conversation with him. He died when I was in high school, so I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was being selfish. So um, as many 17-year-olds are. So yeah, there have been like conversations in passing of like, we should have moved. We should have gone, you know, but
Right.
shoulds,
Mm-hmm.
shoulds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
But you didn't know. So, I mean, yeah.
no.
And so now when you think about wanting your mom to do this and do that, how do you reconcile it with yourself that she might not? Like, how can it be okay for you if she doesn't go with you?
It has to be okay. That's how I feel about it, is that it has to be okay. Is it somewhat unsettling because I feel like everybody should have that experience?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But
Okay.
it's like you have to let people do whatever they're going to do. Like whatever they feel is right for them is right for them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like just because I'm like, oh, you would love whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I know she would love tea in Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. Like I've literally been there. I know she would love it.
What is it
Um,
like in Sri Lanka? Because I might not ever
oh
go.
my God.
I don't even know where Sri Lanka is, and I don't even feel
It's
bad about it.
it's the teardrop. It's the teardrop shaped island off the tip of India.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a map of India, if you look down southeast, there's a little teardrop. That island is Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Um, it's paradise. It
Okay. And
literally looks like paradise.
how did you end up there? Like, what was the impetus of you even going?
It was spring break of 2014. Yeah, spring break of 2014. And we were looking around. Where could we go? Where could we go? Where wasn't like a super long flight from Dubai or Abu Dhabi? And what was cheap? Honestly, that was just it. There were no like prerequisites. We had never been there. They had just ended a very long civil war, and they were in recovery after a tsunami also. So we were like, oh, we don't know what this is going to be like. Have they recovered, anything like that? And it was so much more than we could have imagined.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's so beautiful.
Yep.
I'm excited that you have a mate that you can explore with, because when you think about what it is that you desire to do, look how you attracted someone into your life who is doing that with you. And while it might not be your mother, you're still able to do it with someone and share that moment with them.
So, so let me tell everybody something. I have the best husband ever. I would fight someone if they tried to tell me different. Like I have someone that has held my hand through some of the craziest nonsense that I have gotten myself into,
Right.
and has also held my hand into some of the things that neither one of us even believed was possible to see,
Okay.
that we didn't even know existed.
That's amazing.
There is such a gift from the higher power to have someone who matches your energy,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
and also fills your energy bar when yours is low,
Yes.
and that you could do the same thing for them. You might not be able to do it often, but when you can, you do.
Mm-hmm.
It
So
makes me very teary, but
that's quite all
yes.
right. And I love that, because what I'm getting is that while you hear your mother say that she doesn't want to do this, or doesn't want to do that, I wonder if you recognize you're a version of her. So while she doesn't do it, you do it in her stead. You be what she's choosing not to be.
I I guess Yeah. It's a hard thing to take because you want to share it with everybody.
I hear you.
Everybody that you love, you want them to see the things that you've seen.
I hear you.
Because some of the things that I've seen, number one, I know there's like Black kids everywhere that have never seen.
I
So
get
I'm
it.
like, I gotta take pictures of this so y'all can see this because oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
Or I have to be able to describe what it's like at 4:30 when it starts raining in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and how everybody just kind of like goes in the house and comes back out at like 6 o'clock for dinner and a walk because now it's cool and it's calm and it feels nice to be outside. Like I have to be able to describe those things for people because I know that there's like little possibility for so many people to see those things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And what a blessing again that you are able to do it. And maybe you can video it, or maybe you have, and to be able to experience that and share that from that place. Because yes, you're right. Some people are not going to be able to. Some people don't even care to. You care
Yeah.
to.
I had to realize that too, that there are people that just don't even like that's not even on their radar. They're like, no, I'm
Mm-mm.
cool. I don't
Right.
even know where, like you said, I don't even know where that is on the map.
I've
And
heard
I'm
of the
okay with it.
name. Right. I've heard Sri Lanka. It's a pretty name. I like how it sounds, how it
Hmm.
rolls off your tongue. But have I ever wanted to go to Sri Lanka? No, not really. I've
Right.
wanted to go other places that I actually have been, and there are places that I plan to go, and I'm excited about it. But also recognize too, kind of getting back to your mom and moms, right? Because I have a mom who's similar in certain spaces of and as it relates to going places. I ain't doing that.
Hmm.
And whereas I would love for her to go and share that moment with me, I've had to make peace with it a long time ago that that might not happen. And
Yeah.
so I'll show her pictures if she's interested.
There's the
And
other
I'll
thing
leave
is
it like
like
that.
judging, are they even interested?
Right. They might not be. And
Right.
it's learning to let that go and allow them to be themselves.
Hmm.
And that's the whole point, going back full circle with parents letting their children be their full selves, right? And there's such a thing as leading from behind. And so you're leading, but you're leading from behind because you're allowing them to experience life. And as they ask you, you can share with them your experience. You can share with them certain things and also give them warning of certain things, not from a place of fear, but just to let them know, if you step outside of maybe a guideline that I have set forth, like if they're living in your house or things like that, this is the consequence. But go forth, live your life, share
Can
with
we
me your experience.
can we just emphasize the point of allowing them to experience things? Yes, you may have fear of those things, but not necessarily trying to fear them out of doing those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I can remember there were things that I wanted to do so badly. There were things that like even what I majored in college. There were things I wanted to do and it was like if I mention these things, oh, you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm. So it was stated like that.
Yeah. Like my
Yeah.
sister and I were just talking to my mom about this, about like how I became a teacher. I absolutely did not want to be a teacher. Nothing in me wanted to be a teacher. My sister, who has been teaching more than 20 years, didn't want to be a teacher.
Well, how did it happen?
We come from a line of teachers. That was
Okay.
the safe thing to do.
Ah,
Me stating that I wanted to go to cosmetology school, I wanted to like work on Broadway in costuming and hair and makeup. Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to stand on your feet all day. Well, now here I am working as a teacher at a school where they've taken the teachers' chairs out of the room because we're not standing enough.
interesting. You're standing all day. And what's interesting is, well, let me just ask you this real quick. What did your sister want to do?
She wanted to be a doctor, she wanted to be a
Oh,
pediatrician.
oh, wow.
Now, long story short, she said all the science and all the like blood and guts, she was like eventually like, no, no, no. But no one told her She could have become a psychologist. No one told her she could have become a counselor. No one told her she could have become a psychiatrist. She could have still worked with kids, had a PhD, and done all those things. Someone was just like, you got to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Well, because that's a limiting belief on their end,
And I
right?
can't blame anybody for having that limiting belief because especially if you've grown up in the Jim Crow South, if you have this long list of like it has been successful in our family to do this thing, and if you had doors closed on you,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to walk and operate in an abundance of caution. And so while it took me a long time to get to this point of realizing it, I have peace in knowing that like it was probably said to me out of all of those other restrictions on that person. But it was up to me on how I received all of that. And I received it as a limit. I
Right.
received it as a thing of like, well, I guess I can't do that thing because I'll be ashamed of it or whatever. I received it on all these other levels.
Right. And it's interesting that you still came around full circle in a sense. Whereas you now say you are what ex educator, or how do you say that you're a previous educator?
Former.
Former, that's right. You're a former educator, which means you no longer educate. Like from that perspective, you're going to always be an educator because you're teaching us right now who you
I
are.
I see
And
that now. I did
Mhm.
not see it before, but I see that now that I'm always going to have, there's always going to be in me to want to provide information for people.
Right.
I just have no desire to do it in front of 40 children who don't want to receive the information.
Exactly. Girl, bye.
Right. I just,
Woo!
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
Oh my goodness. And I take my hat off now. Listen, I take my hat off to the teachers of the world who desire that. Ooh,
Amen.
there's a special place in heaven for you.
They don't even have to wait in
Ah,
line. There's no line. They're just automatically admitted.
you just get, yes, it's just like just zap you to heaven
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a special patience. Um, I don't know.
Yes.
I love it. However, I did want to be a teacher at some point. I wanted to be I call myself a math professor, right?
I remember you said yes.
But I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher in high school or elementary. I wanted to teach on a college level because I said to myself, college students choose to be there. You're
Right.
either going to choose to be there or you're not. And I can send you out and not even give two shits. I could not care. And in college, high school, you have, and in elementary and middle school, it's more bureaucracy there. You have more
Yes.
control of your classroom on a college setting. So that's where I want to be. However, my life ended up going in a different direction, which I allow it. I'm allowing it now. I'm happy about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
I mean, I'm not gonna anymore. For as much as I spend time like fighting teaching and not wanting to play that role and not wanting to be, in front of the classroom, I still have to be grateful for the journey that it took me on. I still have to be grateful for the amount of money that it provided. But I'm allowed to be angry at like student loans and like the bureaucracy and the the politics amongst coworkers. Like I'm still mad about some of those things. I don't know how long that journey to peace will be because it was a lot of like garbage to climb through. But yeah, I just don't have it in me.
I feel you. And I'm excited about us working together so you can get clear on that.
Yeah.
And there's no more anger anymore.
It's not deep seated like rage like it used to be, but there's still like, why did that have
Good.
to happen? It's more of like a sour taste
I
now.
get it. I get it.
Before it was like, give me a band-aid because that's another poke,
Right. Right. Well, how
situation.
is it better now? How is it that it's not as deep seated as it used to be? What's different now?
because I have found other things to do and I know that I'm capable of doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's only because I was able to make money from those other things and I was able to get some sense of like um appreciation from other people of me doing those other things.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh, okay. I I don't have to be in the classroom in order to like survive. I
Right.
do have
Right.
other skills.
Right.
So in the midst of like leaving the classroom, like when I first started seeing you, I was like, woe is me. Oh, damn, what am I going to do? I don't know how to do anything else. I had never taken time to figure out that, like, oh, you don't have to do that. You could just try whatever and whatever.
Really? So the writing and all that came after?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I thought we talked about this in like the first episode. All of this started in 2020.
Oh my goodness.
All of it. All of it.
Sylvia, you are brilliant. You know that, right?
I'll accept that. Um,
Hey, there's a genius girl. That lets me know there's so much more that is gonna come forth. That like I'm excited. I'm
I mean, I took on learning. This is how I landed on becoming this black girl with tools because I was like, I better learn how to do some other stuff, and I have to in order to keep myself out of the classroom because I always treated it like Chris Rock when he was like, I got to keep my daughter off the pole. Going back in the classroom was like getting back on the pole to me, and I was like, I gotta stay off the pole. I can't do it.
okay.
So,
But
so
what
I
about
was like, let me learn everything I can.
that's huge. But what about the rage? Like you said, I don't have that deep seated rage. Like it's like to say you doing something other than teaching is one thing, but the anger that comes from the behavior or the things done to you is different, right? Like you said, I'm not as angry as you were before, and I'm curious to know how the anger, how it got better, right? To where you're not as angry as you were before about what happened to you.
Time, space, like distance away from those things. And
You said time.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah, like the longer I'm not in the classroom, the more I can turn around and look back at like, okay, what was the lesson in that? Not just I'm like able to receive things as lessons now
Mm-hmm.
that before I was taking personally. I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking that it was only one sided. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
thinking like, okay, what was my role in that?
Okay.
I wasn't thinking, oh, that has something to do with them. That wasn't on me.
Okay.
I have space and time and like lessons and therapy, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that I have to hold on to that fill the space of the rage now with like a little bit more peace, a little bit more peace, a little bit more lessons, things to take the place of it, basically.
That's huge.
Yeah. Um, and all of this has only come like this year, like since January,
Okay.
honestly,
Okay.
because yeah, it was yeah. And I think a lot of also in like teaching or like parents and children and like the role reversal, I think a lot of it also is like something I said um is having that obligation to take care of someone that you don't necessarily want to take care of or not on good terms with. That's another like difficult thing is like you don't want to be there, but you're in this role, so you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's yeah. I have a whole nother. We have to like do a whole nother episode about just that part about taking care of someone or interacting with someone that you're like, I don't even want to be in the same room with them.
Okay. Yes. Because it's gonna take I think it takes a level of forgiveness because you got to ask yourself what's there.
Ooh,
What is there that has me feeling that way? Because that's like a block in within yourself, and a processing that has to take place in order to be with that. Because if you're in that space of resistance, you're not. You're gonna reluctantly do the thing that maybe is called to do.
All right, Lori, you got my brain on fire again, which was always a cue to me to like, nope, wrap it up because we'll go for another 2 hours
Okay.
of me going like, wait a minute. So I say we call it right there. What do you think?
I think so.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
That's it for this week's show. I'm Lori Scott.
I'm Sylvia Johnson, and you've been listening to What's Been Better.
A big thank you to Lagan Music Inc. for providing our music. This show is edited and produced by us with a little help from our family and friends. We love you all.
Want to talk to us about the show? Send us an email at questions@whatsbeenbetter.com or hit us up on Instagram at whatsbeenbetterpodcast.
Thanks for listening.